Hi everyone, Dennis Foley from Acoustic Fields. Today we're going to talk about obey little, resist much. It's kind of a saying we have, especially when you're dealing with acoustics and some of the misconceptions and down and outright lies that you see in the literature and the forums. They're full of lots of information, but if you look at the information that they give you, it's just a recycling of stuff that's in the literature. I don't see a lot of creativity. I don't see a lot of people inventing their own technologies. I don't see a lot of people applying different ways of thinking about things. It's mostly a manufactured process, like use building insulation to absorb low frequencies, middle frequencies, and high frequencies. Let's leave building insulation for building and BTU retention, which was what it was designed for, and let's treat acoustics with the respect that it deserves. So most of this information that you're seeing is half-truths. There's a little bit of truth in some of the things that they say, but if you look at a complete solution and you try and integrate it into your room usage, I think you're going to be sadly disappointed. First thing we have to talk about is foam as a base absorber. Nothing could be further from the truth. Foam is good above 125 cycles. You can have 24-inch deep piece of foam. You're not going to get much better than 125 cycles and up of absorption. So be really careful with that. Boxes filled with building insulation, not base absorbers. Here's somewhere where the half-truths kind of exist. When a company can't design a product to absorb low-frequency energy, what do? They raise the definition of what low-frequency energy is to accommodate their product's poor performance. So their product may only go down to 200 or 300 cycles, but in their literature and in their minds, it's a low-frequency absorber. Well, it's not in terms of our definitions. We look at low-frequency absorption as anything less than 100 cycles. That's our definition. We stick to it, and our products' design parameters support that. And you can go on our website and look at that. Here's another one. Drywall and green glue is the ultimate barrier technology considering cost, materials, ease of installation. Nothing, and let me repeat this, nothing could be further from the truth. I have many clients call me and say, I followed the literature, I followed the advice in the forum, I used 2 pieces of drywall, I glued them together, I put them on clips, I isolated them in my home theater room, but my wife can't stand to be in the rooms next to me. Why is that? Well, because drywall and green glue barrier technology, at least most of the methods that are described in the literature, they don't work below 125 cycles. We've built rooms and tested them with this methodology. That's why we don't use it. In fact, we don't use any drywall in any of our builds. Drywall has a very nasty coloration for mid-range. I've been to numerous studios here in Hollywood since we've moved our company to the Hollywood location. And I've been in some of the most finest studios, Paramount, beautiful studios, 10, 15, $20 million studios. I don't see a piece of drywall in any of them. What does that tell you? So the literature will tell you drywall and green glue, but the people building the 5, 10, $20 million studios don't use it. So what does that say? So you got to be very careful. You got to read everything, look at the methodology, look at the materials, and say to yourself, wait a minute, I've been in drywall rooms. They sound horrible. And do your own thinking. There's plenty of other technologies. If you want some alternative surface treatment areas, call me. I'll help you out there. So the drywall green glue barrier, not bad cost effectively, not bad in terms of installation, poor in terms of coloration, and poor in terms of isolation above 100 or below 125 cycles. So here's another one. Oh, this is my favorite. Corners are the best place to put bass traps. Nothing could be further from the truth. Absolutely nothing. Corners can be a good place to put low frequency absorption. They're not the best place. I have a database of 116 rooms that have been measured. I would say in about 10 to 15%, the areas of highest pressure are in the corners. The other 85%, they're distributed throughout the room, which is dependent on size and volume. So I think these manufacturers of products use the corners of the room to tell you that's the best place to put low frequency absorption, even though there's no high pressure areas there, because you don't have anything in the corners. So it's a good place for you to put materials because you have nothing in the corners anyway. So let's put something in the corner. Will they help? Maybe, but probably not. Will they help in low frequency absorption? Probably not. So you have to look very carefully at that. Pressure throughout a room is distributed depending on room size and volume. Dimensions are so critical. Speaker positioning is so critical. So you have to, step back, take a deep breath, and do your own thinking here. So drywall, we talked about the coloration of drywall. So be very, very careful here with what's out there. You don't see a lot of new technologies. You don't see a lot of creative thinking. You don't see a lot of taking existing materials and constructing them in ways that maybe minimize their coloration, but appreciate their cost savings and construction methodology. So there's a lot of ways to go. We constantly test different construction methods. We constantly test different materials to come up with stuff. So realize that you have to do your own thinking and understand what's going on, and obey little and resist much when it comes to a lot of the things that are in the literature today. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a thumbs up so I know that it had value to you. And please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Alternatively, if there are other topics that you wish to discuss or see discussed in a video presentation, send me an email, info@acousticfields.com, and we'll get them on our list and get them done for you. I release a new video about every week, so stay tuned to our YouTube channel and keep updated on our new videos.